I'm going to be talking about adopted policy ARIN-2020-2, reinstatement of organizations removed from the waitlist by the implementation of ARIN 2019-16. Next slide. So, as people are probably aware, when we suspended the waitlist, there was a period of time when we had the waitlist suspended because of significant fraud. As a result of that, there was a updated policy for issuance from the waitlist, ARIN 2019-16, which applied criteria for getting subsequent allocations or getting allocations from the waitlist. And that those criteria were applied to everyone new to be coming on the waitlist and all the organizations on the waitlist. As a result, the number of organizations were removed from the waitlist who had waited some period of time. The waitlist was suspended. When it was reopened, the criteria called for them being removed. This policy, ARIN 2020-2, added a section to provide a different transition for those organizations, to restore the organizations that were on the waitlist to the waitlist and have them evaluated under the new criteria, but not the full set of new criteria because they had already qualified once. This was a pretty contentious policy. Next slide. So it was introduced in March. It was discussed by the community at our September meeting and our October meeting. It was actually considered supported by the community and was sent to last call by the ARIN Advisory Council, having been found to meet the criteria of technically sound, providing for a fair distribution of IP addresses, and supported by the community. At last call, the last call became contentious. And in the last call period, there was quite a bit of discussion of why we were doing this and whether it made sense. As a result, the ARIN Advisory Council sent it, let it revert to draft policy. If the ARIN Advisory Council doesn't send something to the board after last call, after a period of time, it automatically reverts to a regular draft policy. And so that's what happened. It reverted. There's a petition process available for the community to say they want a second look at something. And in fact, there was a successful petition to have the Board of Trustees receive that policy as a recommended draft policy, rather than allowing it to revert and go back to the beginning as draft policy status. So it went from the AC to the board as a recommended draft policy after petition. And the Board of Trustees had to consider it carefully. The Board of Trustees looked at it. We provided materials briefing the board regarding how the policy did or did not qualify, the issues involved in its consideration. And the Board of Trustees decided in the end to adopt it. This is the first time we've had a policy petitioned from last call to the board. And the Board of Trustees, as a result of that petition, decided to, and the qualifications of the recommended draft policy, decided to adopt it. And it has been implemented. So next slide. It changed the criteria such that organizations that had been removed were put back on the list. There were 17 eligible organizations when ARIN 2020 was adopted. And next slide. I think we can report all of them have been done. There were 17 request tickets initiated by ARIN staff. All 17 were filled. And that temporary section that was adopted has been retired. Effectively, the prior policy implementation is complete, and all we did was implement it as per this updated text. So we've had a successful policy. The policy has been implemented, and now actually the section that it is defined in is retired. The new NERPM was issued in mid-March. Okay, next slide, final slide. Just to point out petitions in the policy process, this is the section under which it was petitioned, and it required support of at least 25 different people from 25 different organizations, which was met, which is how this policy ended up going to the board. Next. Okay, there we go. I'll now take questions on ARIN 2020-2.
Questions for the presenter in this interesting format. Give it a second.
Any questions?
We got to give it a second, John, because there's sometimes a bit of lag if people type.
Yeah.
Okay, it appears there's no questions, John. Thank you for the presentation.
Okay. And again,
I'm sorry, we have one question.
So you can try and leave that time and it just takes extra time. Please,
I
can we have
know
the first question?
Sure, Chris Woodfield from Twitter. Is there a record of the allocations made under this policy?
Yes, there is. The record of the allocations made under the policy are actually the same as all issuance from the wait list. So parties who look at our daily stats, we have an issued file. They can find the issuance that occurred of these blocks. We haven't called them out or distinguished them in any manner because, as it turns out, this is, there's obviously privacy issues involved. Everyone is, we don't publicly disclose or call out specific allocations, but the data is in our normal reporting.
All right.
That's it.